Hey everyone, this is the first video of our Google Agent Development Kit ADK series, and today we are building a simple conversational agent from scratch. I will show you how to set it up, start chatting with it, and most importantly, walk through every step and every event that happens inside the ADK Dev UI. And by the end, you will know exactly what the agent does under the hood. So let's jump in. So before we dive into the code, let's look at some basics about what an AI agent is and what are the different components of an AI agent. So AI agent. An AI agent is a smart software program that can think, plan, and take action on its own to achieve a goal. This goal is nothing but the objective that you have specified in your instructions in your prompt. So let's look at an example and try to understand this. Consider that you tell the agent that you want to find a new outfit for a winter party in London. Now, the agent is able to think, meaning it's able to comprehend what is being spoken through its natural language understanding capabilities, and it's also able to reason about it. So it's able to interpret that you need a new outfit, which is for the winter season, which is for the party, which is the occasion, and for location London. It's able to infer constraints. That is, the outfit that it recommends should be party appropriate, it should be warm, and if it has access to your past conversations, then it will try to infer the size that you wear, your brand preference, and so on. Right? So in this way, it's able to understand what you're asking. Now, this reasoning then gets turned into a plan. A plan is an ordered step-by-step subtasks or a strategy to achieve the goal. The agent ultimately breaks down the task into multiple subtasks depending on the complexity. So in this case, there could be three subtasks. The first could be first, the agent will try to find a party appropriate clothing. Second, it will ensure that that clothing is suitable for winter. And third, it will also verify the weather in London for that specific season so that it's more accurate in suggesting the winter outfit. Now that it has a plan laid out, it will try to see what additional tools that does it have access to. So it has access to the weather API. Assume that it has access to the weather API. It has access to the search API for catalog. Then the third step is it acts. So it's automatically able to execute those tools so as to get this information, this additional information. So for example, it can call the weather API to get the weather in London in January. It can also call the search API or the retail API to fetch the catalog of products. Now, based on the result of the tool, it's able to observe, and then it's iteratively able to perform these set of steps until it meets its objective or it achieves a goal that you have specified in the prompt. Okay, next let's look at what agent is as a system. Now, a very important thing to remember is that the agent is not just the LLM. It's actually a complete system. So if you think from the Google Agent Development Kit perspective, an agent can be thought of as six core components. First is the brain, which is the GenAI model that we provide to the agent. It's able to reason, it's able to make decisions, it has a very good grasp of the language. The second is the tools or the capabilities. Now, these are the capabilities that we provide the agent so that it can interact and interface with external systems. So it could search the web, it could execute code, it could call external APIs. Now, third is workflows. Workflows is an interesting capability that the ADK provides us to bring in a bit of determinism. So if you want to have a deterministic flow and use agents as part of it, you can use workflows. There are sequential workflows, there are parallel tasks that you can use, there are iterative loops, or there are even dynamic routing where you can route to a specific agent based on the condition. Then one of the most important component is the memory. Memory could be short term for a session. Think of a session as a multi-turn conversation between a user and an agent. It could be long term. So it could be persistent memory. It could be an extract of all the previous conversations that the user would have had with the agent. Then there is another component which is instructions. These are typically system instructions which we give to customize the behavior of the agent. Then there are callbacks. Think of callbacks as checkpoints at different stages of the agent execution. You can use these for a better control. You can use these for guardrails, for logging, or enforcing a policy. Now we'll look at one more aspect. What actually happens inside the agent in one turn of a conversation? So what happens when a user sends a query and gets a response? That's what we'll see. So consider that the user sends a query to the agent. Now the agent packages the system prompt, the tools that you provide to the agent, as well as a user query, and sends it to the LLM, to the model. If the model is able to respond to the query based on its own knowledge, then it goes ahead and responds to the user. If not, then it sees if it needs additional context and if it has access to additional memory. Think of again memory as extract of the prior conversations. If it is able to fulfill that request or response by looking at the previous memory, previous context, then it uses that memory and generates a response and gives a response to the user. Now, as part of the user query, if the objective needs an action, then the LLM will try to find if there are tools that are provided to it. It will decide which tool to call, and then the ADK will execute that tool for it. It will fetch the result and it will send the result back to the LLM. The LLM then uses that result to compute a final response, and then it ultimately responds to the user query. Now, this is what happens in a single turn inside the agent. Of course, when a user is talking to an agent, it is a multi-turn conversation, as in there are multiple turns of these conversations to and fro. Okay, so now that we are done with the basics, let's dive into the interesting part, which is the code. This is how the folder structure looks like to begin with. We have documents. We have an empty folder called as hello agent. We'll be creating the agent inside this folder, and then we have certain images which we have used inside the docs. Now, for your information, what we just went through the basics is inside this markdown file basics, where you can find all the basic theoretical information that we went through. And then the entire tutorial that we'll be going through right now, step by step, it is inside this file. So that later you can refer to it. By the way, this entire code base will be referenced inside the description. So do check it out. What are we going to build today? We are going to build our first AI agent using the Google Agent Development Kit. This tutorial starts from absolute zero. So you don't need any prior experience. You don't need any ADK prior experience, and we'll be creating a simple conversational agent. Now, to get started, there are certain prerequisites. You need to have Python 3.9 and above installed on your system. And you also need the Google API key. You can get a free Google API key at Google AI Studio. So I'll probably just show you in a moment quickly how you can do that. So here we've opened the Google AI Studio. When you click on Get API Key, this is the interface that opens up. I have a couple of keys here, but you can create a API key, you can name your API key, you can select a project, or you can create a project if you have not already. And then once you create a key, it will reflect here. You can just copy this API key. We'll be using it in the code that will run. So from prerequisites perspective, you have Python installed, I'm assuming 3.9 and above, and you have created the Google API key. Okay. Now, again, what we are going to build today is a simple, friendly AI assistant which greets users in a warm fashion. It answers general questions in a conversational manner, and it does not have any special tools because this is a pure conversational agent, and it's a simple basic tutorial to begin with. So let's get started with the setup. Now, the first thing is to set up a virtual environment. So I will create a virtual environment here. Python -m venv dot venv. So you may notice a leading dot here. This leading dot indicates that the folder will be hidden by default. And I'll show you why this is important, because later when we look at the ADK web, when we run the agent, if we do not hide this file, it will pop up as a separate agent. And that's why we don't want the system to consider this as an agent. So we are hiding it. And in order to hide it, we provide this leading dot. Okay. So now we run this command, and this creates a virtual environment. Next, we have to activate the virtual environment. Now I'm using Mac OS, so my command will be source.venv/bin/activate. This will activate the virtual environment. So we are now in the virtual environment. The next step is to install the Google Agent Development Kit Python library. So I'll go ahead, pip install Google ADK. This is the command. This should install the Google ADK SDK, Python SDK. Okay, now that we have installed the ADK, now the next step is to create the project structure. We don't have to manually create the project structure. ADK does it for us. We want to create the project structure or the agent inside this hello agent folder. So I will first enter that folder and it should be empty. Okay. So now let's create the project structure. You can create the project structure by running ADK create, and we want to name the agent as hello agent. So when you run this command, it's going to create a project folder. But before that, it asks a few prompts. Now you can either choose the default model or you can use your own model. Let's go ahead with our own model so that we can see how we can fill in information. So let me select two. Now it created three files inside the hello agent folder, which you can see here: init, .env, and agent. So let's go into the env. Now this is the file where all your environment variables will be exported, and this is where you can save the Google API key. So let's do that. I will copy paste the environment variables here, which you will require. We are not using Vertex AI here. Vertex AI is the end-to-end ML platform in Google Cloud Platform. It's used for enterprise scale applications, but right now, because this is just a tutorial and we are running in the local, so we won't use it. Now, the Google API key that you created in the prerequisites section of this video, you have to paste it here. So I will go ahead and paste it. Now, next step is to define your agent. So we go into agent.py file. Here you see that it is pre-populated, that we have to modify or configure the parameters. So now let's name the model as model name. So we are using Gemini 2.5 Flash. The description, so I have a ready-made description which I'll use. So our agent description is, it is a friendly AI assistant for general conversation. Let me also add our own custom instructions. So our instructions to the model to customize the agent's behavior is: you are a warm and helpful assistant. Greet users enthusiastically and answer the questions clearly. Be conversational and friendly. This is all that you need to do in order to run your first agent. It's so simple. ADK has made it so simple. We are actually just configuring some parameters and our agent is ready. Now, one important thing to keep in mind is that you have to keep the variable name of the primary agent as the root agent, because ADK actually looks for it. So if you change this name, it won't be able to find your agent. Now, in order to test it out, you should be in the parent folder of the agent. So we are already in the outer hello agent folder. As you can see that inside this folder is our agent. To test the agent, the command that we'll run is adk web. So adk web. This creates a local server using fast API that we can then interact with. So I'll copy this and we'll now see the agent in action. Okay, so this is how the UI looks like. You see a session ID here. So all the conversations that we'll have will be under this session ID. We can enable token streaming so that the LLM responds, so the agent responds as and when it gets partial responses from the LLM. Then we have the name of the agent. Now this is where we selected hello agent, which is our agent. So let's test if the agent works. We'll send a simple hi message and then we'll try to understand why this UI is so powerful. So we got an error saying model fill in model not found. Let's see what is wrong. Okay, it's because we didn't save this file. So now we are saving this file. We will rerun the server. And now if we go to the UI, now when we send a message hi, the agent should be able to respond. So it was able to respond. It said hello there, it's wonderful to connect, and so on. Now the moment we sent a prompt and got a response, a trace gets created, And if you look inside the events tab, there is an event which gets added. So now if I click on this event, this helps to understand what happened under the hood when we send this prompt and got a response. So this is how the event looks like. There are contents, parts. This is the response of the LLM or the agent. Since it was returned by the LLM, the role is model. There is some metadata that you can refer to, as in the token count, the modality, the thought tokens that are used, because this is a thinking model. It's able to think. If you go to the request part, I said that the agent the agent actually calls the LLM, and it sends the system prompt as well as the tools as well as the user prompt. So as well as the user message. So you can see this is the request that the agent sent to the Gemini model. So there's a model name. These are the system instructions that we have put in the agent. And this is the user message that we sent, right? We sent hi, and it's packaged under contents. Now the response is the LLM response that the agent got. It's packaged under content. There is some metadata. There are token counts. Okay, let's try to send one more message. What can you help me with? Okay, and we'll try to understand one more time what happens at the backend, what happens under the hood. So it gave a response saying it can answer questions, it can explain concepts, and so on. So we see that there's another event that got created. If I click on it, you can see this is the text that was responded. You can check out the request again. Now, an important observation here is the model, the system instructions remain the same, but for every subsequent request that is sent to the LLM, all the prior conversation is sent along with it. So now you see that this was actually the second request to the LLM. And as part of this request, you can see that even the previous conversation between the user and the agent was also sent. So this is how easy it is to create an agent, to configure an agent using the agent development kit and run it locally. You can interact with it, you can ask questions. Great. So we have come to the end of the video. I hope this video was helpful. Again, this is just the first part. It's just the basic, just to give you a feel of how easy it is and how you can use ADK to build your own agent. I'm going to link all this source code in the description so that you can have a look at it, you can run it yourself. If you like the video, please subscribe, please comment, please like, and stay tuned because we'll be coming up with many more such tutorials and we'll be increasing the complexity of these tutorials as well. So thank you so much and stay tuned.